cared for my ex-husband's sick mom like she was my own mother, but then my ex cheated and lied to her about me stealing money while draining her savings, resulting in me being disowned. I never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am, spilling my guts on Reddit. My name is Serafina, but most people call me Sarah. I've always been the type to give my all to the people I care about, which is why what happened still feels like a nightmare. It all started about 5 years ago when I married Edgar. Edgar and I had what I thought was a perfect relationship. We met in college and instantly hit it off. He was charming, intelligent, and funny. We got married after 2 years of dating, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. Edgar's mom, Beatrice, was a kind soul. She welcomed me into their family with open arms. Beatrice had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis a few years before I met Edgar, and her health was gradually declining. She needed constant care, and since I worked from home, it made sense for me to be her primary caregiver. Edgar had a demanding job and was often traveling, so I stepped up to the plate without hesitation. Beatrice and I grew incredibly close. I saw her as my second mother. We'd spend our days together, talking about everything from her childhood memories to my future dreams. She was my confidant and my rock during times when Edgar's absences felt particularly lonely. I genuinely loved her, and I thought she felt the same about me. Things started to change about a year ago. Edgar began acting differently. He was more secretive, constantly on his phone, and his business trips seemed to double in frequency. I tried to ignore the red flags, convincing myself that he was just stressed from work. One evening, I decided to surprise him by picking him up from the airport. I thought it'd be a sweet gesture, and maybe we could reignite the spark that seemed to be fading. I'll never forget the look on his face when he saw me waiting at the arrivals gate. It wasn't the look of a man happy to see his wife. It was a look of pure panic. Moments later, a beautiful woman emerged from the terminal and walked up to Edgar, kissing him on the cheek. My heart sank. I felt like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. He introduced her as just a colleague, but I wasn't buying it. I could see the way they looked at each other, and it wasn't the way colleagues looked at each other. That night, after confronting him, Edgar admitted to having an affair. He tried to downplay it, saying it was just a fling and that it meant nothing, but I was devastated. Our marriage, the life we'd built together, felt like a lie. Despite everything, I couldn't bring myself to leave him. I stayed, hoping we could work things out, but Edgar became increasingly distant. He was home even less than before, and when he was cold and unapproachable. I focused on caring for Beatrice, who remained oblivious to the turmoil in my marriage. She needed me, and I needed her. She was my anchor in the storm. One day, while cleaning Beatrice's room, I stumbled upon a pile of unopened letters hidden in her drawer. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened one. It was a bank statement, and the balance was alarmingly low. I quickly realized that large sums of money had been withdrawn over the past few months. Panic set in. Beatrice was meticulous about her finances, and this didn't make any sense. I confronted Edgar that night, but he dismissed my concerns, accusing me of snooping and making a big deal out of nothing. His reaction was so over the top that it only heightened my suspicions. I decided to dig deeper, and what I found made my blood run cold. Edgar had been systematically draining Beatrice's savings to fund his lavish lifestyle and his affair. He was gambling with her future, and I couldn't let it continue. I gathered all the evidence I could find and prepared to confront Edgar and Beatrice together. But before I could, Edgar beat me to the punch. One morning, Beatrice called me into her room, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and anger. She held up a letter, and I instantly recognized Edgar's handwriting. "Sarah," she began, her voice trembling, "Edgar told me everything. How could you?" Confusion washed over me. "What are you talking about, Beatrice?" She handed me the letter. In it, Edgar accused me of stealing money from her, claiming I had been siphoning funds for months. He wrote that he had confronted me and that I had confessed. My world shattered in that moment. Beatrice believed him. She believed I had betrayed her. No, Beatrice, I would never... But she cut me off. I trusted you, Sarah. I treated you like my own daughter, and this is how you repay me? Tears streamed down my face as I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. She was heartbroken, and nothing I said could change her mind. Edgar stood in the doorway, a smug look on his face. He had successfully turned Beatrice against me. I was forced to leave that day. Edgar made sure of it. He had manipulated the situation so perfectly, and I was powerless to stop him. I moved out and tried to rebuild my life, but the pain of losing Beatrice's trust was unbearable. She was the mother I never had, and in one fell swoop, Edgar had taken her from me. Months went by, and I struggled to move on. I found a new job, a new apartment, but the ache in my heart remained. Then, one day, I received a phone call. It was Beatrice's lawyer. She had passed away, and I was named in her will. I attended the reading, hoping against hope that she had somehow found out the truth before she died. But when the lawyer read her final words to me, I knew Edgar had succeeded. She disowned me, stating she couldn't leave anything to someone who had betrayed her so deeply. Edgar, of course, inherited everything. Now, here I am, sharing my story with strangers on the internet, hoping for some semblance of justice. Edgar continues to live his life without consequence, while I'm left picking up the pieces of mine. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that love can be the greatest joy and the deepest pain, and sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who can hurt us the worst.